27 people were killed in this attack on Aden's airport last month as the newly formed Yemeni government arrived. The United States said those responsible must be held accountable, and although the Houthis said they weren't to blame, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has announced he will designate the Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization and Abdul Malik al-Houthi and two other leaders as terrorists. Nearly 6 years into the war, the Houthis remain in control of a third of the country, home to 80% of the population. That's despite an air and ground campaign led by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and the local forces they control. The Houthis frequently stage cross-border attacks on Saudi infrastructure and commercial shipping, with civilians sometimes caught in the middle. The situation on the ground is perilous. More than 230,000 people have been killed in the war. The UN says 10 million others are at risk of famine. And aid agencies fear the U.S. decision will push even more of the population towards starvation. 4 in 5 Yemenis now depend on aid, much of which comes through the Houthi-controlled airport in Sana'a and the port of Hodeidah. Pompeo says waivers will be available for the delivery of food and medicines, but there's real concern about the impact on both the humanitarian crisis and the economy.
Some of the impacts that we're afraid of seeing would be that food prices, which are already extremely high, would go up as import companies start to fear dealing with Yemen in the face of these sanctions. This was already the world's worst humanitarian crisis. It was already a situation where millions of people are struggling to afford food. Food rations have been halved for millions, or famine warnings have just resurfaced. So this is really a life and death matter that we're talking about.
Efforts by the World Food Program have held off famine for now. The UN's food agency won the Nobel Peace Prize for its work keeping millions alive in Yemen and many other areas where there are wars and conflicts. Executive Director David Beasley told Al Jazeera last month that U.S. officials know exactly how difficult they're making their work.
We'll do whatever we need to do. We always have. Whether there's sanctions or designations or not, we'll do what we can to reach the people. Our job is to let the leaders understand clearly what will be the ramifications and what the difficulties that will be for us to reach people. Yemen is already in an extremely volatile, fragile state. I can't begin to tell you, we are on the brink of famine right now in Yemen.
But there may be hope. The Washington Post reports that President-elect Biden's foreign policy team is against the move to designate the Houthis as terrorists, and there may be a change once he's in office. Andrew Chappelle, Al Jazeera.